So this week I decided to take a step away from drawing cats, and I found this really cool template for a Pokemon art challenge. It's pretty simple and really self-explanatory, and seemed really fun to do. For each square, I'll be drawing the corresponding Pokemon in my own style. Jumping right in, the first category is my very first starter. The first game I ever owned was Leaf Green on the Game Boy Advance, and when I got it, somebody's old save file was still on there and I spent countless hours messing with it. I don't really have much memory from the save file, but I know they completed the entire game and had a bunch of high-level Pokemon. I remember talking to a GameStop employee about the game and he told me I could just start a new game, which I didn't know beforehand, and make my own save file, so I did. My first starter was actually a female Charmander. I didn't understand the nicknaming mechanic at the very beginning because I was so young, but when I started watching walkthrough videos, I saw that you could set a name for them. And after learning this, I went back and named the female Charmander Charla, who was at that point a Charizard, after the Charizard that watches over the Charcific Valley in the original Pokemon series. And to show that, I added Charla's bow into her design. The second category is to draw a Pokemon from your favorite region. My heart has absolutely always been with the Hoenn region. My second Pokemon game ever was Sapphire, and I fell in love with the region's design, the lore, the legendaries, right from the beginning. It was hard to choose just one Pokemon from Hoenn because I have a lot of favorites that come from that region. But I ended up doing Delcatty because she's cute, and I have a super fond memory from middle school where I stubbornly made it all the way through the game, all the way through the Elite Four with a Delcatty on my team. All I could do was spam assist and hope that the game landed on one of the team's better moves from the move list. But she made it through the Elite Four. I had a bunch of runner-ups for this section because there were just so many other cool Pokemon. Electrike, Aggron, Flygon, Swablu, Altaria, Zangoose, Milotic, Absol, and Salamence. And as I was sketching this out, it felt so wrong to leave Skitty out of it, so I added a Skitty in too. You can never have too many Skitties or kitties. Moving on to the third category is my favorite shiny. For this one I chose Ninetales. I vividly remember shiny hunting for shiny Vulpix for years, and I still never ever got one. I would hatch eggs after eggs after eggs. I would have so many boxes full of so many Vulpix from just about every game that Vulpix was available in. However, I was entirely unsuccessful. The only way I was able to get a shiny Ninetales in my possession was through the GTS in X and Y. The silver and blue for shiny Ninetales just sits so nice together. And it's really funny because the first two times I ever encountered a shiny in any of the games, I ran away from it, not knowing what they were. I excruciatingly but vividly remember both of these times and the exact location I was at in the games too. The first time I bumped into one was in Leaf Green when I was still really young and a kid and I didn't know anything about shinies. It was at the top. I painstakingly remember this, so... It was at the top of this exact spot on the 5th island of the Sevi Islands. Those islands you could visit after you beat the Elite Four. I saw this Meowth that was kind of pink and it sparkled and I thought something was wrong with my game, so I turned it off. It was only years later that I realized what in the world I had done. And the second shiny I ever came across was a Swadloon in the Pinwheel Forest in black and white. And I ran away from that one too. My childish ignorance haunts me, and I still beat myself up over not catching either of them to this day. But the runner-ups for this category was Vulpix, Giratina, Luxray, Milotic, Furret, Umbreon, and Ponyta. Continuing with the shiny theme, the next category is a shiny that I wished looked a little bit better. I really dislike when the shinies look very similar to their normal colors. Specifically Garchomp, Leafeon, Gengar, Persian, and Scyther. They look like they just took the original image and the original colors of these Pokemon and just made it a gentle difference. I don't even mind when there's some obnoxious color usually, because it's still nowhere near as bad as just being a duplicate of the original Pokemon, with only a few differences in shade. I mean, Yveltal literally looks like a strip of bacon, but it still looks better than this. But out of all of them, I really dislike Solgaleo's shiny design. All of the colors are the least appealing colors to be next to one another, and it is such an obnoxious bright shade of red that it hurts my eyeballs. Some people really like it. I'm not going to bash on anybody who likes shiny Solgaleo, but a really awesome color combination would have been maybe dark blue and yellow, or maybe more space colors, because that would have at least played off of the cosmic space design. He just kind of looks like he becomes a fire type. And this was also the first time I'd ever drawn Solgaleo, and let me tell you, that in itself was a challenge. But I think he turned out really cute. He's at least recognizable as a Solgaleo, and that's what I was going for. Moving on to the middle box. It's kind of like a free space in bingo. It's a randomly generated Pokemon. Let's see who we get out of the 900 plus Pokédex entries that there are. Technically there's only 905, but I wanted the few Pokemon released in Scarlet and Violet trailers to at least have a chance, so I'm generating a number between 1 and 915. And it landed on number 119, Seaking. I actually really like Seaking's design since it's based off of Koi Fish, and I absolutely adore Koi Fish. But surprisingly, it's one of the Pokemon I've never had on my team in any of the playthroughs I've ever finished. Seaking is also the superior fish design out of most of the ones that exist in current time. Also, I really love the way that I made Seaking look. I ended up making him look kind of round and bubbly and cute with eyes that were full of love versus his standard design where he looks a bit too lifeless and fish-like. I think it would have been cool to see Seaking get a mega evolution of some kind, because I feel like there's so much that they could do with the design, but it still feels like it's lacking something, and I'm not exactly sure what. Next up is a mythical or legendary. And of course I had to go with Suicune. Cosmog and Shaman were my next choice, but I always loved Suicune's design, lore, and overall character. Funnily enough, thinking back to Leaf Green, I have a painful memory of accidentally knocking Suicune out and not understanding that once you knock them out, they will not come back. I was really over here thinking he would just respawn, since he kept running away over and over, and I remember being really upset when I wasn't able to track them down anymore. I realized as I was making this that Suicune is just majestic as heck, and I love the pose that I made for it. On to the bottom row. Next is a Pokemon of my favorite type. It's really hard to say what type of Pokemon is my favorite type. Fire is pretty cool, but so is water, and most of the other typings. I narrowed it down to a tie between fire, grass, and dragon, and I still don't particularly have a favorite. But if I had to lean towards one, it would be dragon-type Pokemon, in terms of overall design of the characters. Many of my favorite designs are in this typing, such as Altaria, Dino, however you pronounce that one, Flygon, Dragalge, Noivern, and Jangmo-o. I was absolutely going to do Jangmo-o, but I decided to save it for the very last slot, so I went with Flygon instead. It was really hard trying to figure out a solid pose for Flygon 2 that didn't have some part of the wings or the drawing cut off by the border of the canvas, but it turned out pretty decent looking. Moving on to the next prompt is to draw my very first favorite Pokemon. To be honest, it was all of the evolutions. There's no denying that, hands down 100% all of the evolutions. Minus Sylveon, because Sylveon wasn't out at that point. I had a major obsession with them from early on. They were, for the most part, the beginning of the deep dive into a lifelong obsession with Pokemon for me. Take one glance at my old username that I used to have on DeviantArt and YouTube back in 2011, and it's kind of obvious. It's a bit self-explanatory, too. Espeon and Umbreon won me over from the moment I saw the first A and B of them. Their sun and moon, day and night, light and dark, yin and yang dynamic had my 9-year-old self in an absolute chokehold. But out of the two of them specifically, it was Umbreon, and even more specifically, Shiny Umbreon. I used to draw the crap out of Shiny Umbreon on everything, including schoolwork, papers, notebooks, journals, everything when I was younger. And I even made a main character out of one. I also had an Umbreon figure that I tried to poorly paint over with blue acrylic paint, and it just didn't work out, and I ended up somehow ripping the figure's ear off. But overall, Shiny Umbreon's design is so cool. The dark gray and the blue, they don't clash at all. They work so well together, and it's just such a pretty design. And lastly is my current favorite Pokemon. Which is Jangmo-o. What's not to love about this big-headed cutie? He looks so derpy and he's got such a big head, I feel like he would just tip over. And I think that's the cutest thing ever. The most recent fan character I made was this girl named V, who is originally from the Hoenn region. Her family traveled to the Alola region for vacation. While there, V just so happened to befriend this cute little Jangmo-o who was being picked on by the other dragons in the area. Relating to this Jangmo-o, she ended up defending him from the others, and he stuck with her, and she named him Jenga. Funnily enough, Jenga never evolved, even when V was completely certain that he should have evolved already. It turns out Jenga likes eating rocks and stones, particularly Everstones. I feel like that is such a fitting thing for a Jangmo-o to do. I can just imagine them chomping down on rocks and be like, this is good soup, this is it. This is a delicious delicacy. But anyway, I really like Jangmo-o. It's the cutest Pokemon by far. And here's the completed meme. I know this was a little bit different from my normal content, but Pokemon was such a major part of my childhood and I really enjoyed taking part in this art challenge. It was also really refreshing to do this challenge since I got to draw Pokemon, which I normally wouldn't draw in the first place, and I was able to take a little break from my normal work. Oh, and I would really love to hear about which Pokemon everybody else would draw for this challenge. I love hearing other people talk about Pokemon too.